Hello, my name is Dane Chekalinsky. I'm with the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation. I'm about to show you a presentation presented at the 2019 Developers Tour in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, in which we showed the presentation prior to the tour of the community. The goal of this presentation is to provide an overview of what's happening in the Sheboygan area economy. This tour would not be possible without the help and support of the three organizations listed below: the Harbor Center Business Improvement District, the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, and the City of Sheboygan. Without any further ado, here is the presentation. First, when we talk about Sheboygan, we have to talk about the difference between the city, the county, the MSA, and here's some really broad statistics. The city of Sheboygan is just under 50,000 people in population, but the county, or the MSA, is about 115,000 individuals. The core of the county that represents the city of Sheboygan, town of Wilson, town of Sheboygan, Kohler, and Sheboygan Falls, which is more or less one giant community, is at least 70,000 people, if not larger. One thing that makes the city of Sheboygan a little bit unique is that its median age is much lower than the state average, and its foreign-born population is much higher. It's almost twice that of the state of Wisconsin. And what that tells me is that when people leave an area and go to a totally another country where they may or may not speak the language or understand the culture, the fact that a lot of them proportionally are ending up in Sheboygan tells us a little something about the opportunity that lays here. The city of Sheboygan and Sheboygan County has received numerous headlines in the past few years. One of the most striking headlines has been how optimistic the local business community is. The Wisconsin Manufacturing Commerce does a study every year and asks local businesses, how optimistic are you of the local economy? And the last time I read that they did this, about half of the businesses were optimistic about their local economy. And in Sheboygan County, when they asked that same question, the response was about 90% positive. People are excited about what's happening here. And why shouldn't they? We've been named the second most livable city in the United States. We boast one of the lowest poverty rates in the nation. In addition, we have been noted for our top place to live for both retirees and millennials. And we've continued to receive designations as biker friendly, runner friendly. We keep seeing more and more parks opening up. It's really exciting time to be living in Sheboygan County. The city of Sheboygan is also extremely proactive. One thing that I think sets this area apart is our ability to dream, vision, and coordinate to make it happen. There's a lot of collaboration here. About 20 years ago, if you went to South Pier, this is what you would see. You would see essentially a coal and oil depot serving the area's energy needs. And today, you see one of the gems of Wisconsin tourism. A complete redevelopment of this property, only made possible with collaboration between the private and public sector. When this community dreams and want to make things happen, it's fully capable of challenging itself to create truly spectacular developments. The economic growth. So let's talk about what's happening, what's driving the growth in Sheboygan County. The big thing is follow the jobs. Sheboygan County has enjoyed an extremely low unemployment rate like the rest of the state. But one thing that's very interesting is that the growth in employment in Sheboygan County over the last 3 years has, quite frankly, outpaced all other metropolitan areas in the state of Wisconsin. And it doesn't matter if we look at employment, if we look at labor growth, if we look at gross domestic product growth. The fact of the matter is Sheboygan County is the fastest growing MSA in the state of Wisconsin right now. In addition to all the wonderful job growth, we are still sitting on over 3,000 jobs according to someplacebetter.org. We've had over 3,000 available jobs since about 2014. That number has stayed very, very steady over the time. So lots of opportunities for individuals. On the service side, there's one huge item to note, and that is the amount of financial institutions that are and have investing in Sheboygan County. We are seeing new locations of banking institutions built here, and obviously they see something. Why would a bank whose presence is largely digital in today's world putting in bricks and mortar and this much overhead into the market. And we'll see why these banks are feeling the need to have more physical locations here. So the employment drivers. One of the biggest drivers in Sheboygan County's economy is manufacturing. Now, about 1/3 of our employment is based in manufacturing. It's the third highest concentration in the nation. But one of the key sectors has been cheese processing. And over the past few years, I would say at least 700,000 square feet of cold storage supporting that industry has been built, but primarily in the Plymouth area, but some of it around the county. And that continues to grow. As a matter of fact, even if today, just learned that JJ Coolers is adding on another 30,000 plus square feet onto their facility. So we're continuing to see growth in the cold storage area. And they're fueling companies like Masters Gallery, who just completed a brand new facility in the village of Utzberg, just a few miles south of Sheboygan, making it one of the larger projects in the county that has recently happened. In addition to the cheese industry, we also have a significant sausage industry headed up by Johnsonville. Johnsonville in the last year has completed a beyond gorgeous headquarters that looks like it belongs overlooking a lake in northern Wisconsin. This is a significant investment into their headquarters facilities. And we're seeing more and more of companies using their facilities to attract and retain talent. This is a trend that I know it's happening around the nation, but it's certainly happening here. But it's certainly great to see this amount of investment or this much confidence in this area's ability to continue to solve these companies' both employment and innovation needs. On the other side of the food processing industry is supporting the agricultural community. A new agronomy plant was just completed on the rail line that was rebuilt between Plymouth and Kohler. This is about an $11 million investment to essentially bring in fertilizers and mixed fertilizers for the area farmers. FedEx has also just completed a brand new distribution center. Now, this distribution center is focused on their freight service. FedEx has several different divisions, and their freight one, which basically ships pallets, is the one that's located here, which I think is tremendous, knowing that we're seeing more and more online shopping, more and more kind of smaller shipments being demanded, and the fact that there is now a hub in our backyard that can handle some of these B2B needs is truly spectacular, and I think a wonderful advantage here. Another significant expansion has been that of Millport Sigma. This is the former Sigma Aldrich. This plant lies just a few miles south of Sheboygan. One thing that you probably have heard of about 2 years ago was when Foxconn announced its expansion in the Racine area. One thing you didn't hear much about Millport Sigma. Millport Sigma was actually the second largest plant expansion announced that year, but it simply got buried in the headlines. This plant is now operational. This plant services their food flavorings and fragrance industry, and Millport has continued to grow in this area and provide a lot of really good paying jobs. Acuity, we can't go very far talking about development and economic opportunity in Sheboygan County without talking about Acuity. As a matter of fact, Acuity was just named the state's economic development driver by the Wisconsin Economic Development Association. They have just completed a significant expansion and announced yet another expansion of more parking structures and a recreational facility. What can I say is this firm continues to grow and continues to bring in employee recruitment and retention best practices, which I feel is raising the bar on all of our companies, and why I think we've been more effective than I think most areas in attracting talent to our area. And it's been, quite frankly, because of the good work Acuity and others have been doing. On the medical side, so that's kind of what's happening on our primary employment side. On the medical side, it's truly spectacular to watch everything going on. Purveya just opened up a new 60,000 plus square foot medical building next to St. Nicholas Hospital. And the other primary system in the area, which is Aurora, has broken ground on a new 300 million hospital. And of course, it's going to take a few years to go under construction. This will replace their former hospital on North Avenue. But one thing that I think is often overlooked is that this project is the single largest commercial construction project in Sheboygan County's history is being performed right now. And that's extremely exciting, and extremely excited that it's being built between where Acuity's location is and University of Wisconsin Green Bay's Sheboygan campus. So you're going to see 3 really nice facilities lining up the interstate, providing some really good visibility for anyone driving past this stretch of the interstate. Tourism. Now, Sheboygan County, one thing people may or may not know about Sheboygan County is on one side we have white sand beaches and the 4th largest body of fresh water on earth. On the other side, we have the rolling kettle moraine hills, and in between, we have 3 or 4 major resorts, spas, golf courses, a lot of amenities. And I often tell people, living in Sheboygan County is a little bit about living in the middle of a resort. And one of the areas of emphasis has been focused around Road America, and that's been automotive. We've seen a lot of car condos go up and some commercial development specifically related to that industry. We've also seen a lot in the art area. The John Michael Kohler Art Center it has built the first of its kind art preserve. The building is technically finished, but it'll take another year or so for the exhibits to go in. And this will be a facility that's open to the public. It will not replace what they're doing downtown in their 99,000 square foot art center, but it'll allow more of their collection to be showed and for our art enthusiasts to do a little bit of research on some of these artists. And so really excited to see the whole arts and culture piece really coming together in Sheboygan, and specifically focused on folk art or self-taught artists seems to be their main focus. The Kohler Golf Course is another development. This one's been tied up in some legal issues, but we have been told the company is still committed to building this facility. This would be our 6th top 100 public golf course in the area. 4 of the other ones are run by Kohler Company. Another one is a different firm. But again, you know, it's truly fantastic to see that the 2020 Ryder Cup is coming. Kohler is looking at building another golf course. Golf continues to remain a very, very strong tourism driver in Sheboygan County. And taking advantage of some of those tourists are hotels. Sheboygan County is seeing actually 3 hotels go up. 2 of them in Sheboygan, the 2 that are pictured here. The one on the bottom is the Fairfield Inn, which is nearing its completion. That one's being built on the south side of Sheboygan, right off the interstate. The one on top, that is a Hampton Inn. That's going to be built behind, next to the Goodwill store, behind the south side Walmart. That facility has just broken ground. In addition, there is a Cobblestone Inn that has been announced in Plymouth, Wisconsin. But with all this, one thing that I think people may or may not know is that Sheboygan County's tourism industry, in terms of visitor spend, is the fastest growing tourism industry in the state of Wisconsin. So not only do we have the jobs, not only do we have GDP, we also have tourism that's the fastest growing here. Again, also explains the huge amount of optimism in this area, and it's really exciting to see. And it's really exciting to see that a lot of these outdoor trends of tourism and ecotourism are things that are being planned for in the future. So I think Sheboygan County's tourism will look better tomorrow than it does today. On the talent side, one of the things that we know companies, whether they're located in Sheboygan County or anywhere else in the nation, are really struggling, or it's really become a challenge to find talent and keep talent. So I think we're doing some very unique things here that make it a little bit easier for our companies to recruit talent. One of them is our cooperation between our K-12 and private industry. One of the most known projects is the Red Raider project that put brand new technical facilities into Sheboygan North and South, but also they're not the only high schools that have coordinated very well with our employers. So here's the 2 best examples I can give anyone. Sheboygan Falls High School High School is the only public high school in the nation with a full-size plastic injection molding machine. If anyone knows anything about the economy, Sheboygan Falls, it's home to Beams Manufacturing, the second largest company in Sheboygan County, and they do plastic injection molding. Plymouth, Wisconsin is home to many of our cheese industries. And Plymouth High School is the only public high school in the nation with a high-speed packaging machine. Again, going on the food grade packaging. I don't have any other testimony as strong as that to show how much K through 12 realizes that their ability to attract and retain students and attract and retain families is directly correlated to how well our local employers do, and our local employers understand in order to attract and retain talent really depends on how well their schools prepare students for the future. And we realize that the way we present ourselves is a package deal. It cannot be, we can't separate one out. And so there is a lot of collaboration. And some other areas of collaboration has been manifested itself in the way of Inspire Sheboygan County. Inspire was also named as a top finalist for the 2019 Wisconsin Economic Development Awards in the talent development category. Inspire really is a platform where employers and students can go online and talk to one another. And the implementation of this system, now called Zillow, is by far and away Sheboygan County per capita uses this system more than any other location. They have offered over 700 work-based learning opportunities to the students. And they've also been a leader in creating co-ops, a little bit shorter than a youth apprenticeship, but essentially not only are our high schools equipping with some of the best technology out there that students can use to get a good career, they're also making sure that the conversation continues between employers and students directly, and that those opportunities are available for our students. Another one that's very interesting is called the Founders Club. These are private dorms that have been developed in downtown Sheboygan. There's roughly room for about 240 beds. And what this is just for-profit, essentially dormitories. A lot of our companies bring in a lot of interns throughout the summer. They also have a lot of our tourism industry has a lot of J1 and J2 visas to service them during the peak season. And these facilities have been made available to companies that wish to essentially sign long-term leases and have a constant flow of new people coming in. I've heard stories from interns that have had internships in Chicago, Los Angeles, and what we're hearing is that their experience in Sheboygan County, because of these dormitories and because they're located in downtown Sheboygan, is one of the best experiences that they've ever had, and they really have come to love and enjoy this area. And so again, it's just another very unique way that we are trying to bring talent into our area. Lakeland University is one of only 2 schools that I'm aware of in the United States that have a fully functioning cooperative education program. What this allows students to do is to work for companies and get up to 30 credits in that work experience. It is fairly unique. As a matter of fact, many public schools cannot do this because it's there's some limitations on federal dollars, but Lakeland is private, so it can kind of create new boundaries for its students. And because of this, because the message is we want to train you in a career path and we want to provide you with 4 years of practical experience, Lakeland University has had the last 2 years, they've had the largest increase in their freshman classes ever. At a time when universities are having declining enrollment, Lakeland has had 2 record years. So that tells you how popular this program is, and I think it's certainly really great to have this in Sheboygan County. On the other front is entrepreneurship. Getting people to come to an area is one thing, to work jobs. Getting people to come to an area and create the future, be inspired to create the future is something totally unique. The state of Wisconsin has a small business development center system scattered throughout the state, usually along 4-year universities. That system that is designed to help entrepreneurs write business plans has had about $80 million of capital investment into those business plans, and 18% of those funds went to Sheboygan County. And by the way, Sheboygan County is only about 2% of the state's population. County number 2, I can tell you, is Dane County, but you didn't hear that from me. So once again, it's great to see the amount of investment and opportunity and excitement in yet another area that is helping us to keep and retain talent, because it's all about creating the future and providing optimism, and that's what we really bring. Switching gears here, let's talk about housing and where we are and why we think this is critical to our future. So a couple years ago, we took a look at our number of housing units that have been built this decade. And what we found was that Sheboygan County was very near the bottom of that list. And when we ran the back of the envelope numbers to figure out if we just hit state averages, how many housing units would we have to put online? And the answer is about 1,400 housing units to hit a 2.6 growth rate by the end of the decade. That kind of gave us knowledge and some insight and some things that we kind of knew what was going on. And so what we did is we did a housing study, and we went around over the last couple of years. This was back in 2014, and we started asking people to help fill our needs. And since then, we have absolutely proven that there is a robust apartment home market here. We've had developers from Milwaukee, from Madison come in and build units. And you can see some examples here. All set in total, we probably had about 800 units built countywide. We'll probably have another 300 or so under construction, and probably another 200 or 300 proposed in various stages. And that puts us pretty close to the 1,400 mark. But again, that's to hit state average. In the last few years, we've been exceeding state averages growth. So I think it's a conservative number. We have had a handful of Section 42 units, which is great to see. But certainly affordability is one of the key items that we have really looked for. Now, the great news is just like we've had our largest commercial construction project in a new hospital, just recently Green Street Development out of Missouri announced the 248 unit, the Oscar, which is coincidentally our largest single housing project announced to date. This is a little bit different. It doesn't use Section 42, but it uses Community Reinvestment Act dollars to kind of create a capital stack that can drop rents a little bit below a true market rate program. Very excited to see this come to the market, but ultimately there's been very few units built in the 3-bedroom area. And plus, we also think that there is a significant senior 55 plus market out there as well. But we have a lot of action in apartments. Please contact the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation. We're happy to share what we can share and what's going on. On the other side of this coin, so that was rental. On the other side of the coin are the ownership occupied units. And we started seeing some very interesting things in the data. The number of single family units available in MLS has gone down, more than cut in half since the end of the recession. Same thing true with condos. At the same time, where fewer of these units are listed, the median sale price has gone up in the county over the last couple of years, and the days on market have certainly gone down to a point that if something is priced right, it moves within hours of it coming up on the market, and that's no exaggeration. So we have a very robust housing market in certain categories. So just like the apartments, before we ask someone to put in millions of dollars, we go out and we study it. In May, we concluded a condo study by Tracy Cross and Associates that essentially said we need 320 units in the next 5 years. Half of those units, or 160 of them, they wanted to see in Sheboygan's core. And then on the single family side, although we have not issued a formal study here, part of the condo study said, hey, Sheboygan County Housing, we need to be building roughly 230 owner-occupied units in total. And that's pretty conservative, given the 90, Sheboygan County was building probably 300 to 350 housing, single-family housing units per year, so 230 is pretty conservative. And when I looked at our data, building permits pulled through this year, I think we're on pace to do about 165 housing units, which is only about 70-75% of our total demand. We have certainly lagged behind other parts of the state in this category. The good news is we have numerous subdivisions that have been announced, but ultimately, we're looking at houses built. So we do feel that there's some the numbers are telling us that there's some market that's still left untapped in the occupied area. Now with the condos, the good news is we've had some units announced. We have had the Water's Edge condos on the north. They actually have some units on the market right now. Then riverfront condos that are being built on South Pier. The first phase are 21 units. I believe the second phase is about 18. And those should be breaking ground in the next week or two, at least on the first phase. But still significantly short of the units that our Tracy Cross and Associates study tells us we should have. On the retail front, there are really two main things of note. The first one is that our Meijer store is now open and operational. This is the first big box store we probably had in some time. Very busy, right on one of the main cross sections. There are some available inline store spots should anyone want to take a look at those. The other one really is most of the retail action has been in our downtowns across the county, specifically downtown Sheboygan. One of the great things that the Harbor Center Bid District partnered with the City of Sheboygan on was the creation of these pop-up shops, and 3 new shops are coming to downtown to try to get more entrepreneurs to take a look. Sheboygan has announced we are getting an axe throwing bar, essentially, keeping up with modern trends. And we've also had a whole slew of basically female-owned businesses in our downtown, and that trend is quite frankly continuing. So it's really excited to see that our mom and pop retail appears to be thriving in this environment. Now, anyone who studied economics or how cities grow, a lot of it's really based on way transportations are. Wherever an interstate is built, can be rest assured that sooner or later development will happen in that corridor. And there are a couple really exciting things happening in transportation that anyone looking to invest in Sheboygan County, Sheboygan, should know. The first one is between Sheboygan and Fond du Lac will be 4-lane the whole way in the next 3 years. The stretch between Plymouth and Fond du Lac is currently under construction. I understand that'll be a 3-year cycle. But it's very excited to see that we will now, Sheboygan will be connected north, south, and west with 4-lane interstate freeway style roads. Of course, east is the lake, which is the reason why the city's here. So it's going to be fantastic to see increased traffic in the area. The next is Sheboygan County and its partner with Kohler Company has announced that they've been able to get approval to put a U.S. Customs facility at our airport in time for the 2020 Ryder Cup. This is extremely exciting. What people may not know about the county's airport, which is owned by Sheboygan County, it sees over 700 flight operations a day. It can handle a 98,000-pound aircraft, which is essentially a Boeing 737, can land safely at our airport. The main runway is well over a mile long. It's a lot bigger facility than most people realize, and with U.S. Customs, not only does this mean more international travel for our tourism-based industry, but it also means that potentially samples and quick parts for our manufacturers can be shipped out rather easily as compared to more traditional modes of transportation. So very exciting to see the significant investment in our airport facility. And then the final thing that is really awesome to think about, and maybe some of this is the housing related, some of it might be the dorms related, but ultimately bus ridership in the state of Wisconsin, public transportation has gone down in the last 5 or 6 years by about 22%, but not in Sheboygan and Sheboygan County, because the bus does go to Kohler and Sheboygan Falls. The Shoreline Metro ridership has actually gone up 15% over the same time frame as the state. So again, it shows, I think, the level of robustness and activity we have in Sheboygan. So at the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, we get the opportunity to essentially work with many great municipalities across the county, but each one is unique. Each one has its own flavor. And I wanted to share with you what we see as utterly unique that Sheboygan does extremely well, or it's the only community that has something. So the first thing is opportunity zones. There are 2 opportunity zones in Sheboygan County. Both are census tracts essentially in downtown Sheboygan. You're kind of seeing a rough map of where that is. So anyone who wants to take advantage of that tax vehicle, Sheboygan is the only place in the county in which that can be done. The second one is we have many communities with business parks, but the Sheboygan South Pointe Business Center is truly a step up. This park has been designed with bioswales. This park has been designed with walking paths in mind for employees to offer amenities, and even the plans call for gazebos around some of these large retention pond lake features. So the idea was to build a business park along the interstate that was a step up from your average business park. And if one simple drive through it, you'll very quickly understand what that is. You can also see the pile of dirt lined up around the road. That's so if anyone wants to build, we don't need to scrape off the topsoil and replace it. It's already done, thus lowering the cost of development. The other item is the creation of Wisconsin's original Innovation District entitled FreshTech. The idea is to build an urban business park with programming layered on top to get very smart people to collide and create collisions, helping people find their tribe and associate with other like-minded individuals. So for example, a place where data scientists can go and have conversations with other data scientists. Some of this programming we think will be delivered countywide, but certainly the City of Sheboygan has led efforts on acquiring property, clearing ground, and sharing this vision with the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation to create the first of its kind innovation district. One very cool thing is that part of this talk has basically sparked the creation of the Wisconsin Internet of Things, or IoT Council, and we're hoping to drive kind of the IoT industry in terms of new product development from Sheboygan. Just one of the many cool spin-offs that have kind of happened since we've announced this this initiative. If you go to one of our websites, you can certainly find out what's happening there. FreshTechInnovation.com. The next thing that City of Sheboygan does extremely well is to master plan. The city is currently upgrading its master plan kind of in its urban core, and the great thing about this is, one, it prioritizes what the city wants to see. That prioritization is based on conversations with city leaders, with neighborhood meetings. They define the unique characteristics, so what they kind of want to see built upon, and this allows developers to very quickly assess whether or not their projects fit what the community is thinking, and makes those conversations go so much easier. And in addition, the City of Sheboygan has so much information online. They have newsletters. They are very good at disseminating the information that they have, like everything. If you know where to go on the website, you can find it immediately. And so they have been a very open book community to work with, and there are very few surprises when working with the City of Sheboygan. The other thing that's cool about the area is the coffee shops. We actually had a developer come to us a few years ago, and of course I asked this individual, why Sheboygan? Why Sheboygan County? Why us? And their response was because Sheboygan has more coffee shops per capita than any other community in the state of Wisconsin. And I was blown away. I had never heard of that before. But even in the last year, we've had 2 coffee shops open, and within the next couple months we'll see 2 more open up. These are neighborhood kind of coffee shops, and it's truly spectacular to see the rise of this third-party space in the area, because there is something happening here where people want to get together, have a conversation over a cup of coffee. I think it is one of those cultural aspects that's often overlooked. But it's very, very prevalent here in Sheboygan. In addition, the recreational amenities of the City of Sheboygan are truly fantastic, from the sailing center to the county's first beer garden, to being one of the first to adopt kayak launches, to its world-class skate park. There are just so many unique opportunities. Again, so many of these are building off of the outdoor recreation trend. And the city's been very keen on tapping into that trend and providing some really fun things to happen. Matter of fact, one of the parks is going through a master plan right now, asking the residents on what do they want to see. It sounds like we might see another dog park. So it's really exciting to see what's going on in this area. So with that, that was a lot of information to cover. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, the City of Sheboygan, or the Harbor Center Business Improvement District. We are more than happy to share with what we know, what's going on. So with that, thank you for your time. And if you do find Sheboygan as a place to invest in or look deeper in, thank you. If you went through this presentation, you said it's not for us, that's great, but thank you for your time. We hope to continue to drive Sheboygan County's economy long into the future, and we cannot do that with you. We can't do that with our partners. So again, thank you, and if you want an exciting place, Sheboygan County is the place to be. Thank you.